Okay, welcome to my first Ye Olde Battle Reps Painting the Basics. First thing I'll say is, if you haven't watched it already, please watch the Painting the Basics introduction video. So it'll give you an idea of the kind of thing that you're going to see in all these videos. So I'm starting with something that I consider to be one of the easiest things to paint, but can make your life a lot easier, which is painting dark clothing. So I'm going to show you this by painting the two Guild models. They are Veteran Rage and Decimate. They're slightly different kinds of clothing. One's very much a cloak, a jacket kind of style. So I've started off, as you can see, I've done the undercoats, the basic coats there. I sprayed this white. I probably wouldn't normally choose white as my undercoat spray, but I basically did it because white was the only spray I had left and I just really wanted to paint them. So the undercoat for both of these, this initial greeny colour here is Incubi Darkness, which is the GW base colour. And you can't really see that well, but on the inside of Decimate's cloak, I've done just Abaddon black because that's going to be really dark, so that's going to just stay black. I'm going to do some fine detailing on this for the rest of the model, and then I will come back when I get to the wash stage for you. Right, so I've done the base coat on both Veteran Rage and Decimate. So I did the Incubi Darkness on the green bit, and the purple is, let me find it, try to pronounce that, Xerius Purple, that one. I don't think I've got the Incubi Darkness on my table. Yep, there it is. So I did my Incubi Darkness, Xerius Purple. The next bit, if I can find it, is this one. Second most useful wash they do, number one being Angrax Earthshade. So, because I'm doing dark cloaks, is what this video is called, it's called Dark Cloaks, I'm going to put plenty of this on, so I'm going to bring the paint over so you can see what I'm doing with the paint as well. As close to the camera as I can so you can see. So you want plenty of wash, I really want to see that black right in there. People often say you shouldn't put too much wash in. I like to put quite a lot, because I figure I can always go over it again later. So don't worry about putting too much in, it doesn't matter. You can always go over the paint later and bring out the highlighted features that you want. So I'm also going to get some potentially on the white here, but as I haven't painted that yet, that's also not a problem. So I'm going to do Rage, and I'm going to give you a little tip on how to help your washing dry quicker. Then I'll do Decimate for you, and come back when the washes are dry. So I'm still just applying wash all over the bits that I want. Quite thick, especially this back bit. I want it to be quite dark. I don't know how well you can see this on the camera, but I'll keep explaining what I'm doing verbally so you can hopefully still learn something. Plenty of wash. Now, one important thing to remember when you have a wash and it's drying, if I stand this model up now, so if I stood it up straight on its base, all the wash would wash down to the bottom. So I'd have a big black bit at the bottom and no wash at the top. So I've now got too much wash in that bit there. So what I do is I dry off my paintbrush a little bit, and just dab it into the wash where the wash is, and it soaks up all the wash for me. Useful little tip for you. And this bit as well, just soak up some of the wash back onto the paintbrush. Then, you can't see this because I'm using the light to light up the camera. I'm now going to hold my item. If I move the camera around a little bit, you might be able to see something. Oops. Right under the light, where the light is, this light I've got gets really hot. So I hold it under there for a bit. I'll go around here because that was so bright you couldn't really see it. I hold it under there for a minute or so. It just helps to take a bit of the edge off the wash. It just dries it off a little bit for you. And I found it also means it's not quite as shiny. The wash isn't quite as shiny when you do this. Really helps those dark colours. The last thing you want is a really shiny cloak. So I'm holding him under flat, turn him round, hold the back under. You could do it with other heat sources, I suppose. You do want to be careful not to hold it under there for too long, because what I found is it actually affects the glaze that's on top of the wash. Actually makes it go white, which you don't want either. You end up having to rewash it or even repaint whole sections. So I just like to dry off bits of it like that. You can't really see on there that well, but there's now some of the raised areas are now dry. And what I'm going to do with him, I'm going to rest him. I'm going to rest him face up here with his top hat on the edge of that part of the paint table. You can just rest there while I go ahead and wash Decimate. Oops, stuck to her. So same thing as with Rage, just plenty of black wash. I always make sure I try and get more near the bottom. I always imagine there'll be more shade down there, but that's up to you. If you want more shading in particular areas, you just apply more wash to those areas. Or what you can do, if you're worried about it pooling, as it can, in big divots and things, is you can apply another layer of wash. I've just realised I don't think I gave her 2 coats of the purple on this, but that's not too much of a problem because I'm going to go over it anyway. So all the way around, I've actually done the inside of her cloak black. One, because it's really hard to paint the inside of the cloak, and if it's black I don't have to do anything else with it. And I also just imagine the inside of a cloak would be black anyway. So all down the legs, go around the back, this way it's tricky. Just do a quick check I haven't missed any washing bits. Oops, right up in her crotch, look at that. Last thing I want is a dry crotch. There we go. Then I'm going to do the same thing I did with Rage and hold her under the light, which obviously you can't see. So I'll come back when the washing is dried and show you what to do next. Right, the wash is dried. Just left it about an hour or so. Now I'm going to do the first part of the highlight. So I'm back to my Incubi Darkness. Give it a shake. I prefer to take my paint off the lid of the paint if I can, as opposed to the middle. You get more control about how much paint you have in your brush when you do that. Lick your brush. Paint, I'll try as close to the camera as I can, while still being able to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to find the raised bit, so I'm going to start with a trim. Just very gently. Turn them all around. That's that little bit of trim done. Can't really see it. Unfortunately, I'm not sure how well you're actually going to be able to see it on the video. But I'm going to have to ask you to believe what I'm telling you. Go on the trim first. Probably going to put some blood and stuff on the bottom of this trim anyway. There's his Rage. That's what he does. So I then want to highlight this whole raised section here. So I start at the top, relatively good amount of paint on the brush, not too much, just do it in bits, take a tiny bit. Always brush off some of the excess paint on your brush. You don't want a big globule of it when you start painting. It's better to have not enough on your brush than too much. Too much is hard to spread, not enough is easy to go over again. Just gotta go all the way down, a bit more on this bit. One thing that I find quite useful, because I don't like using corks or anything for my painting, simply because I can't be bothered, is I don't paint the top of the model's head. It gives me something to rest my fingers on, like that. And that was absolutely fine for me. I just always make sure I'm painting the top of the head last. So his hat's going to be the last thing to get painted. When I do hair, it's always the last thing that gets painted, because I like to hold on to the head. And that works well for me. It also means I can use the models before I've painted them, which is quite nice. I haven't got the pressure of painting a model before I want to try it out in a game. That goes for any game, not just Guild Ball, of course. Right, that's that bit done. This bit's going to be a bit more tricky, because when you've got the wider raised areas for the highlighting, it's always a bit trickier. But thankfully this is so dark that you don't think you'll even notice. So always start in the middle of where the crease is. Nice long strokes on this one, so it's going to blend in fairly easily because it's a dark colour. It's been washed with black and it's putting the same dark colour over it again. So I'm layering it fairly easily. Brush them off and just start pushing some of that paint inwards. Some more. It's hard for me to look at the camera and see what I'm doing. And a bit more on this bit here. This is the highest part of that raised section. Yeah. And then I've got a nice little bit here. Easy crease to just go along. There's a central crease. So this isn't actually a crease, this is part of the almost the design of his cloak. Just going to go down like that. I'm just going to do the bottom of his cloak for you for this video, and then I'm going to finish it off and show you what it looks like at the end. I'm not sure how well you'll see it on this camera, to be honest. But again, like I say, you'll have to just believe what I'm telling you, really. Make sure I'm holding the bit I'm trying to look right into the light as well. Good to have a really strong light to work by. You can see that I dip my brush in the paint an awful lot. I don't do one big lump. I mean, sometimes I do also wash my brush in the middle, and I can also just take the excess I just dripped off the side there. So I don't know how well you can see that. It's quite a dark colour, I don't know if you can see that well on here, but it is working quite well. It's quite a dark highlight, which is what I'm looking for. So if you hear that bell sound, that's my cat. It's just playing around by my feet. Probably gonna jump up on the paint table now. That'd be convenient, wouldn't it? You can afford to do some nice long brush strokes on these areas. His cloak's nice and long. There's one more bit here. Oops, a bit too much paint on there, but I'm gonna spread it down. Oop, now she's knocking my arm just as I'm trying to do this. Almost finished this bit, and then I will turn the camera off and play with the cat so it leaves me alone. Here we go, and that's literally it. I'm going to put different colours on the trim, I think, for this part of his cloak, or his jacket, I should say, rather his cloak. So I'll do that. I'll come back when I've highlighted the rest of the green and come back and show you the purple. Okay, now I'm going to show you a bit what I've done with Decimate. So I've done the same thing with the back of her cloak as I did with Rage. Oops, I'll put it where you can see it. No, nice long strokes on these bits just to highlight out of that. I'm going to come around and show you how I do the front of her. So she's got a lot more detail on the front of her. So I'm going to start on her arms. I don't know how well you can see it on here, but there are tiny little creases. Her arms. Rage had the same thing, but I decided to show you this on Decimate. Gives me an excuse to paint two models for one video, so I get two done, which is great. And again, you can see I'm resting a finger on her head, it just keeps the model steady. Just pick out a few lines on her clothing. You won't see it too much on this video, but the final product, you can tell the difference. Those bits do just stick out a little bit. So find the lines where the creases come up. Just bring them out really carefully, not too much paint, and then the same there. Her collar, I'm going to bring all of her collar out, except for the creases that go down, because I imagine that being quite bright. And then chest again. Go from the highest point first and work downwards. I'm going to do the same when I do a knee. Start with the highest point and work from there. The highest point is the bit you want the most paint on when you're using painting like this. Using a very fine detailed brush for this. I tend to use a fine detailed brush most of the time unless I'm applying a big layer of paint, like if I'm doing an undercoat. Back of her leg, just bring out all that as well. Oops, bring it away, you can see it, that would help, wouldn't it? So the useful tip is to see where the wash has kind of gone and fallen into most. That's the bit that's best to leave dark. It tends to form in the natural creases of the model, particularly if you follow my advice and hold it under a lamp. Try and think when you do that where you want the wash to go, so hold it in a position. If I wanted the wash to be down here at the bottom, I would hold the model like this at the lamp. If I wanted it to be at the top, I'd hold it that way at the lamp, and therefore it just dries that bit differently. So this part of her tunic is going to be quite tough because I stupidly glued the cloak on first. I'm going to make sure I leave enough wash in between the green and the purple to show the difference, and there's just a couple of lines on this bit. That's pretty much it. And then I'm on to the purple. So for the purple, I'm basically recoating it again with the, I cannot pronounce this one, Xerius purple, this one. So it's just going over what I had before. So again, you can't see it that well on Rage. So you can see it better. Again, he's got like a edging around the edge of his cloak. So I'm going to do that first. With this collar, I'm actually not going to leave too much of it unpainted, like unrepainted after the wash. I want to leave a tiny little groove, and that's it. So I'm just going to go. This is the bit that takes the longest time. Carefully go around there. Come back to this bit. Go around the edge again. Position, you actually see it. I don't think you're able to see this bit very well, but there is like a little edge bit on his cloak, which I'm going around first. If you do actually copy this and paint Rage, you'll see it quite obviously. I'll try and get some good close-ups of these models when I've finished. I'll take the camera off the stand for you so you can see. So then what I'm going to do, I'm going to fill in all this bit. I want the colour to be quite bright. So where the wash, I'm going to colour right up to there. There's a tiny little groove in between the edging I've just done and the main part of the collar, and I want it all to be nice and strong purple. So I'm loading up with my brush with a bit more paint than I would normally to get a really good solid layer of colour. To be careful when you do that, you don't end up blotching it and it runs off into the area that you've washed, you want to leave with a wash. So good to turn your model around. Always make sure that the paintbrush is the bit that's pointing towards where you don't want the paint to go. You're only painting this way into a groove, what should I say? You don't want painting this way into a groove, you want to paint this way into a groove. Or towards a groove, I should say. Or alongside it, of course, like this. I'm going to go all the way around with this. I'm going to change over and show you what I'll do with Decimate. Set this collar. And then I'm going to do the same with his bits on his arms. Just bring out the colour. I'll be highlighting the buttons on it separately, probably in a different colour. That's that bit done for the moment. So I'm not going to stop the vid camera, I'm just going to bring Decimate in. So you can see on Decimate that where the wash was here, it's just turned that entire bit black. So I'm going to go over it just purely with purple. Just bring it right out again. Like that. Another big nice thick layer. May need 2 layers on that section. I apologise for the clock in the background. You'll have heard that on some of our Guildball videos. I should really turn it off before I start filming anything. But I just forget. Because I'm going to re-highlight all this purple again. I'm not too worried about being a very thick layer. I think the effect is fine, and again, as I said before in the intro video and at the beginning of this video, this is for basics. Okay, if you want a better highlight, this isn't the video for you. But by now you're probably about 20 minutes in, and you've kind of lost your opportunity to avoid this video. Here we go, that's the edge of that done. I'll do the rest of it and come back. Okay. So that's basically it for the dark part of the clothing. I can show you that Decimate's all done, all the purple's done, all the green at the moment. And that. Now I'm going to quickly show you how you can add just one little thin highlight on it. So I've done it on Rage already, Veteran Rage I should say. You can just see here on the trim of the inside of his coat, I've used some Genestealer purple just to bring out that highlight on there. Done the same on the wrist as well. I'm going to do the same thing on Decimate. I'll try this out before I've done it. So I've done it on this wrist here. I'm going to show you how I did it on this one. So again, fine detail. It just takes a steady hand and practice. You just go very, very slowly around the edge. Like that. That one. Like that. You can't see it that well on here unfortunately, but those tiny little highlights do actually look quite good. In fact, I'm going to do it on the bottom of her cloak as well, I think. Just bring out some colour at the bottom. Like that. Just a tiny little fine highlight on the edge. Again, I'm not watering down any of these paints. I don't think it's necessary, to be quite honest. Quite a useful thing, if you're doing right along an edge, get paint on the side of your brush, as you just saw me doing it on there, and then just run the edge of it along Like that. Cool. That's the end of the video for the dark colours. What I'll do is when I've painted the rest of the model, I should say, I'll show you the final product so you can see how it all linked in together